When I get back, I really want to figure out a way where I can spend more time outside of Washington listening and learning and engaging with the American people. It's really what gives him his energy and his strength, and so we're determined in the new year to make sure that his schedule reflects that priority.
Well, there is Valerie Jarrett, one of President Obama's top advisors, talking about the new and improved mingler-in-chief, President Obama.
That's right. Everybody, when they're out in Hawaii, probably thinks, I got to get out of Washington a little more often, right? Top Line starts right now.
And welcome to Top Line. I'm Amy Walter.
And I am Zach Wolf.
Every day at this time, same bat channel, we bring you the latest, most updated state of politics. Zach, we didn't get so much snow here. No snow day for us.
No snow day and nothing going on in Washington. So, starting us off with our top lines, Say It Ain't So, Joe. Joe Miller up in Alaska has essentially decided that we won't be hearing much from him anymore. He's going to continue a federal court challenge of the election there, but he's not going to try and keep Lisa Murkowski from being seated again. Do we care about Joe Miller anymore?
Joe Miller wants to make sure that we do still care about him. He doesn't want us to forget about him at all. In fact, I think there's maybe going to be a 1980s Don't You Forget About Me redux here. Look, Joe Miller has very few options left to him. He does know that if Lisa Murkowski is not seated, he looks like even more of a sore loser. But it's unclear why the federal court would overrule the Alaska Supreme Court, which decided unanimously that his case didn't have any standing. So we'll see, but I kind of doubt it. All right, next up, cold on steel. That's right, everybody. There's more evidence now that the Steel Coalition, the Michael Steele Coalition, continues to fray. Over the weekend, there were a number of Republican conservatives, the so-called RNCC, who sent out an email to say that there should be an anybody but Steele coalition formed and to make sure that nobody helps to make sure that he is the next leader or continues to be the leader. And Sean Steele, California Republican committee member, deciding that he now is going to back Reince Priebus, one of my favorite names in politics right now, over Steele. He used to be a strong supporter of Michael Steele. So is this sort of the last straw now with folks coalescing, saying we're going to find somebody, anybody, but we're not going to let Michael Steele fray us enough to give him the nomination?
Well, I think it's clear Reince Priebus seems to have more people publicly saying they'll back him.
Yep.
Steele, according to one total that I saw, I think on National Journal, has only 12 people saying they'll back him right now. So Reince Priebus, the most popular name, Steele, the most popular name, Steele on Steele, but Reince Priebus looks like he will be the next guy.
Potentially, yep.
Next up, Screaming Eagles up in Pennsylvania, up in Philadelphia. They take their football very seriously, including Governor Ed Rendell. Usually politicians are wanting people to take it easy when it's snowing outside, but Ed Rendell got into a little argument with the local weatherman.
Yes,
take a listen.
Well, Governor, in actuality, it's John Valeris. There's really already 7 inches of snow on the ground.
No, there is not, John.
No, that report was from 7 p.m.
Reports have it at less than 5 inches of snow.
No, that was at 7 o'clock. This is now.
That was at 8:30, according to BEMA.
Football fan Ed Rendell trying to, say that they should have played that game last night in Philadelphia.
So the mayor of Philadelphia, John Utter, saying, good idea, NFL. Thank you for canceling the game. It's not safe. The governor, noting he is a lame duck governor, so he does not have to pay for this, later on saying, NFL is wimpy, let our fans come out and see the game. Of course, I wonder what he'd be saying if after the game, a lot of those Eagles fans got into major accidents on the highways and byways. Probably not a good idea. And finally, back from the dead, that's right, the New York Times reporting over the weekend that the so-called death panels, at least that's what Republicans like Sarah Palin had called them, will still be part of the Healthcare Reform Act. The Medicare regulations saying that you, as a patient, can go in, still talk to your doctor. Your doctor can give you advice on what to do about end-of-life decisions. Now, there was some concern in liberal circles that this report was going to create some tumult among conservatives, but we have, as of yet, have not heard anything, not a tweet from Sarah Palin about this. So maybe it's not such a big deal. The administration says, look, these were regulations that were put in place by George Bush. Maybe they're right.
That's right. But, you know, a lot of people are still in their holiday coma, I would think. Sarah Palin hasn't tweeted anything since Christmas Eve. It's only a couple days later.
Maybe she's stuck in New York.
Well, and the new Congress starts just in a couple of days now, January 5th. And to talk about that, here we have former Congressman Tom Davis, a guru of all things political, joining us on the Top Line set.
Let me just say I side with Governor Rendell because we were confined. I had to watch Law and Order repeats.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a good point. So you put Law and Order versus order on the streets. Okay.
Exactly.
Got it. All right. Well, Congressman, first let's weigh in for a second on the lame duck Congress for a minute. You've been working with a group called No Labels. Your tie, No Labels. There are donkeys and elephants on it,
Bigger
just to note.
Just for the record.
Yeah, so I can say the bipartisanship really working here. The lame duck Congress got a whole lot done in a bipartisan way. So does this suggest that your group, which is working on more bipartisan, more comity, C-O-M-I-T-Y, in Congress, maybe there's something there? Or was this just sort of a last gasp of a Democratic-controlled Congress?
No, I think it was the last gasp. I think they're running up to the finish line. Democrats still control the House. Had Republicans controlled the House, this would not have happened because they had to redo bills, move them through the House, send them back to the Senate where they were counting votes. So basically they were running out the clock and getting done what they could get done. And I think some of the Republicans feel a little burned now because the president's taken a victory lap and they're going back to their base saying, what are you doing? And I think the old partisan juices get flowing as we go into January. So I don't know how long lasting this will be.
That's right, and we start in, you know, a new Congress where Democrats are going to lose their majority, and it's not like we're going to see very many votes on social issues that Democrats would like in the House, like Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and that's a segue to talk first about, you know, social issues, but also about Virginia politics. We saw George Allen, the former senator, release his first statement politically in some time, bashing the two Senate Democrats from Virginia. Do you see him running again for senator?
Well, I think he wants to run. I've talked to him a few months ago, and I think he misses the action. He didn't like being a senator. He said he would have liked being governor, but I think he misses it, wants to get back in the fray. He spent a lot of time getting around the state the last year, giving out money to candidates trying to build that base, but he's come to a Republican Party that's far different from the party that it was six years ago.
And how so?
Well, he's clearly moved right. They've been rejuvenated by the Tea Party groups. You had Jim Gilmore almost get knocked out in a convention by Bob Marshall, who was the author of the Virginia Marriage Amendment. Moderates have fled the party and become independents in both parties, so it's moved both parties right and left in the state. And you already have conservative groups coming up with not George Allen websites and the like. So all of a sudden he's become the establishment instead of the darling of the conservatives.
So who would challenge him, would you think, from the right? I mean, could we see somebody like a Ken Cuccinelli decide that he wants to get into this?
I doubt it. I don't think you'll see a substantive challenger from the right. What generally happens in these, you get 2 or 3 or 4 pretenders come up. And I think given the primary situation, which Allen had opposed his whole career, now wanted a primary, that he will be tougher to dislodge unless he gets hit from the left or from the more moderate side as well. And then he can get yinged and yanged. But I think at this point, he's in decent shape. At least he's got the post position going into the election campaign.
Now, you can't talk about Ken Cuccinelli without talking about the health care law. He, of course, brought the suit that the federal judge overturned the individual mandate. Are we still going to be talking about this in a year? Is the Republican game plan, which appears to be, you know, keeping on health reform and making that the big battle going into the next year, is that going to work for them in a second Congress as a political issue?
Let me say a couple things first. Yeah. The big things are, where's the economy going to be a year and a half from now? If you're the president, you're saying, and I think that's why he cut the deal on the taxes. He recognized that if everybody's taxes went up, it wasn't going to help the economy. That's number one. Secondly, is he's got to manage Afghanistan. Those are two things that variables on the ground that would hurt his reelection chances. Now let's get to the health care bill, because I think it was a bad bill to begin with in the sense that it was never intended to be a law. It was intended to get out of the Senate, and they were forced to kind of take that. They never were able to get technical corrections passed, never got it to conference where they could have you know, the policy people weigh in and make it connect. It's got a lot of disconnecting parts at this point. And I think a lot of members said, we'd rather pass this imperfect bill than start all over again. The problem is the Republicans aren't going to let them fix it. In fact, they're going to try to retard its growth, try to starve it a little bit, and try to make this the poster child of everything that doesn't work. And I think obviously the legislation is going to have some problems over the next year.
But do Republicans risk overplaying their hand and making it look as if they're more concerned with stopping Obama than working on fixing the economy?
Well, you always ask that. At least on, this helps them a little bit this last session, because at least on the tax issue, which affects every American, because it got into payroll taxes and everything else. I think at this point they start off on a clean slate. But no, it's going to be, I think, pretty ugly the first 6-8 months. You've got to look at raising the debt ceiling as we move through. You've got to get the budget for the rest of the year. They are at odds over what you do with the deficit. It's easy when you're adding money, which is basically what they did to get this deal together. When you're giving money away, it's tougher when you're cutting money, and that's where the rubber's going to hit the road.
All right, Congressman Tom Davis, great to see you again. Next time we bring you on, we're going to talk redistricting. This guy knows a lot about Virginia redistricting. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.